Hello, I'm Rebecca Flaherty, and today we're going to be making this pattern in Procreate. This tutorial is an advanced level one, and I'm going to be using a template from this arts and crafts wallpaper set in my Etsy store. You can also follow along and make this pattern freehand and without the texture overlays. If you're a regular here, feel free to use the timestamps to skip to the beginning of the tutorial, and if you're new here, then welcome to the Pattern Maker's Toolkit. So the reason that this one is a bit more tricky is that we're going to actually be using two different layouts. One for the middle, which normally we offset and then use around the edges, but to add some interest and variation to this wallpaper, I'm going to show you how to use a different pattern around the outside. Here's how it would look if you just used the same design for the middle and the outside, and here's how it's going to look with an alternating set of motifs in there. I like to mix things up like this for wallpapers because it looks more interesting and less repeated. If you've never made a diamond repeat pattern in Procreate before and you're lost already, then this tutorial here will help you learn exactly how it works and covers the why as well as the how. So let's start by importing our canvas. I always import files from the gallery screen like this because dragging and dropping from the Files app in split screen will flatten all the layers into one if you're importing PSD files. So it's good practice to get into the habit of importing all your files into Procreate this way. So let's have a look at the layer structure here. At the top here, we've got textures, which is a thing we're used to seeing with these canvases. This one, however, is rectangular. Normally I use square canvases, so up until now, all of the seamless texture overlays I've sold have been 3,600 pixels square. So this is your first chance to get your hands on a rectangular textured canvas. This one is 3,600 pixels by 4,500 pixels, or 12 by 15 inches at 300 dpi. You can't actually see the textures yet because the background is white and they don't have any effect on any white parts of the design, but if we change the background colour to something else, you can see these lovely seamless textures in there, and they are fully seamless so you won't get any gaps on the edges of your design. I'll just change this back to white. So then in the layers, we have the pattern layers here, which again you're used to seeing, but in this design we've got two folders, subfolders in each group because we've got two different parts of the design. So first of all, we're going to start with step one, outer. We're going to make the motifs that will eventually go around the outside of the pattern. They're marked as step one, outer on here, and the template is blue. After we have those drawn and in place, we'll then work on the inner ones, which are marked as step two, and these are orange. Let's just put that one back on. These templates are designed to get you from zero to pattern really quickly, so you can just trace directly over the template and add your own flowers and leaf shapes. Following a template is a really good way to learn the mechanics of a pattern layout. So once you get the hang of how they work, you can turn the template layer off and just use this as your guide for making your own designs. So in the sketch folder, have this one here turned on, step one outer, and you should have a blue template in there. I'm going to start by stamping floral shapes into these circles here. So I'm going to go on my draw here layer, and I'm going to use these two, which comes with the arts and crafts brush set that comes with the pattern set. So I'm going to grab this pod shape first, and let's just zoom in and stamp this one on here. Then I'm going to use my select tool to resize this, and I'll turn snapping and magnetics off, and I'm just going to make it fit into this space here, lining the bottom of it up with that stem there. Then I'm going to duplicate this layer, tap transform, flip it horizontally, and now we've got a copy of it over there, and I can merge these two layers together. Now I'm going to add a layer above and stamp this one in the middle here. This one isn't symmetrical, which is why I am adding it after these two. So then you can tap transform and resize this to fit in this space here. When you're working on symmetrical designs, it's always nice to include a bit of asymmetry in there as well. When that's done, you can merge this down with that layer. Because we've got all the stem and leaf positions marked out on this template, we don't need to trace over these for our sketch layout. Normally at this point we'd offset this and put it around the outsides, but as you can see, these outside parts don't actually match up with what's down here. For example, there's a leaf here, there isn't a leaf on that part. We're going to be using two different parts. So although this will actually be going around the edges later, we don't need to use it as a guide when we're drawing this, so we can just go straight into illustrating this in our pattern folder now. So I'm going to turn the pattern group on, open it up, and we are working on the outer one first. So let's turn the inner one off and we're going to be working on our outer pattern. So come down to this layer marker and add a layer. I'm going to draw this flower in the middle first. So let's grab the drawing brush from the Arts and Crafts set, and using this dark blue, I'm going to trace over these parts of the flower. Before I add any of these details in, I'm going to do the fills, and this is so we don't have any potential little gaps where the lines are close together down here at the bottom. So on this layer here, tap it and make it a reference. Then add a layer underneath, and I'm going to use this light blue to do the fill on the first one there, and then I'm going to use this mid blue to do the ones at the back. Best practice would be to have each colour on a separate layer so that it's easy to edit colours later, but if you're short on layers, or if you're just making this for fun like I am here, you can do all of your fills on the same layer. If you want to edit colours, you should be able to zoom in, turn this off, and then alpha lock and colour over these bits and still be able to edit your colours fairly easily. So now we can turn this off, carry on this layer here and add this line work in. Now we can put that back on again. Everything else we draw in this group is going to be drawn with symmetrical drawing assist on. So add a layer underneath, come up here to your canvas, actions, tap on canvas, turn the drawing guide on, edit the drawing guide, turn on symmetry, go to options, make sure you've got vertical checked and assisted drawing, and then you can tap done. This layer now will say assisted drawing, and any layer you add, after this you'll need to tap on drawing assist. If you want a quick way of doing that, you can come to your actions, go to preferences, gesture controls, and if you go to assisted drawing here, at the moment I don't have any quick actions set up for that. You can use this one at the top here, turn that one on, and then anytime you tap on this, at the moment if I add a layer, it doesn't have drawing assist on. If I tap on that, it's going to automatically turn on drawing assist for us. So let's get rid of these two and work on this one. And then I'm going to draw in the stems on this layer, and we're going to use this dark grey colour for that one. The pen pressure in this brush is perfect for drawing these lovely smooth branches, and because it's got a textured edge, it's quite forgiving when you merge two lines together. Also on this layer, we're going to draw these artichoke shapes in, stopping before we add the thinner lines. Make this a reference layer now. So it'll switch from this one to this one here, and you can either drag this to the top and use this one and carry on doing all of your fills on that layer, or you can add a new layer underneath that and do your fills on that one. I'm just going to carry on this layer here and use this stone. I need to turn drawing assist on for this layer. You can see that's in there now, and then we can use this to fill these shapes on the artichoke here, and you can see that's mirrored over there because we had drawing assist on. Now we can turn this off again, and I'm going to add some smaller line details in here with the same dark grey colour. All that's left to do in this group is to draw in the leaf shapes, so I'm going to add those on a layer below. Turn on drawing assist for this, and you can trace over the dotted lines as they are, or you can do something a little more freestyle. There's a link in the description to a Pinterest board I have which has got images and links to some of William Morris's designs which are in the public domain, so you can use those as direct inspiration. Before we fill these, we need to turn this one off as a reference layer. Let's tap on this and turn that off, and then we can fill this layer here. Put this one on now, and I'm going to come back to this layer here and use the dark grey to just add a little bit of detailing on these leaves here. Now we need to draw these parts here in pink which fall on the seams of the tile. To do that, we need to take a snapshot of what we can see now, so swipe down with 3 fingers to copy all. Then we're going to come up here into our extra folder, turn that on, and we're working on the outer. So tap onto this, swipe down with 3 fingers again, and paste. You can turn the textures off now because we don't need 2 versions of those. So duplicate this layer, tap transform, and make sure you've got snapping and magnetics on and distance and velocity all the way up. And we're going to drag this over here and snap it to the edge of the canvas there. Then this one we're going to tap and drag this one over to the other side of the canvas. Then we can pinch those 2 together and add a layer above. And for this isn't symmetrical, so we don't need drawing assist on there. Just trace over these pink lines, adding the branches and lining them up with what's on the template below. Now we have all of what will be the outer part drawn, let's get it in its final position on the edges of the canvas. So first of all, tap this layer here and tap copy. Then we can turn this extra group off. We're keeping all of this intact, we're not flattening any of these layers. Come up here to the pattern layers group, swipe down again with 3 fingers and tap paste. And that's put what was in there, a copy of that up there now. I'm going to turn off the pattern group and also the sketch folder. So we want to put this on its position on the outside of the canvas. So put a mark going off each of these opposite corners, duplicate this layer, tap transform and snap it over here until you have those orange lines there. Then the one underneath, tap transform, and we're going to snap this one over to this side. So we're doing the opposite of what we did with that pasted in layer where we brought the edges into the middle. Now we're putting them back on the edge. Then you can pinch to merge those together and just erase those parts. Now we want to turn the pattern group on, duplicate and flatten the copy. So we've still got all the layers there intact for later if we need them, but we've got a flattened copy of it up here. So now we can hide the pattern layers. These 2 layers now can be merged together. We're going to put that mark going off the corners again. Need to un-alpha lock it first. And then duplicate this, tap transform, and we're going to snap it down here into this corner until you have those orange lines there. Duplicate the bottom one again and snap it up into this corner until you have those 2 orange lines there. Duplicate again and snap it up into this corner. And then the last time we don't need to duplicate, we can just use this one in the middle and bring this one down into that corner there. Then you can pinch and merge all 4 of those together and erase those parts in the middle. Now the outer part is where it's meant to be on the outside of the tile, and we can now draw the inner part in as we have this around the edges as a guide. So now we kind of go back to the beginning and do pretty much the same again, but with a different template. So turn your pattern layers on, turn off this outer pattern, go to your sketch folder, hide the outer one and turn on step 2 inner, and you should have an orange template in here. For this one I have the pod in the middle and then the flowers on the outside. I'll go a little quicker with this one as it's the same steps as we've covered already. Once you have your flower shapes in place, turn on the inner pattern group up here, open this up, add a layer, and you can start drawing your motifs in here. You'll want drawing assist on for all of these layers because all of this is symmetrical. Just going to turn the opacity on this down a bit. When you come to this part down here, you can merge it in with what we have here. I'm doing this part with Drawing Assist turned off because I think it gives a more natural look to it. Once you have all the parts in orange illustrated, swipe down with 3 fingers, copy all, turn your extra folder back on, turn off the outer one, and in the inner folder, tap on the extra there, swipe down with 3 fingers and paste. Duplicate it and snap one over to the left and one over to the right. Then add a layer above, and without using Drawing Assist, trace in the final parts of the design. Now copy this layer. You can turn your extra folder off, come up to the top here, tap on pattern layers, swipe down with 3 fingers and paste. Just hide that one for a moment. Duplicate your inner pattern group and flatten that copy. Then bring that one up to the top here, and now we can just turn all of those pattern layers off. Let's turn this off for a moment and put this part on the edges where it's meant to be. So just put a mark going off the corners like we did before. Duplicate this layer, snap half of it to this side and the other half over to there. Pinch those together, erase those parts there. Then you can turn on your pattern. And normally, like the last step would be to offset this and put it all around the edge, but we already have those pieces in there from the other part of the design. So this is actually now finished. We can merge all 3 of those layers together, and that's our finished tile. Let's change the background color to this navy blue, and then we can go ahead and test the repeat. I'm going to turn the drawing guide off so that that's not making us think we've got a gap down the middle. So let's turn that off. I'm going to turn the textures on now, so you can see how lovely this looks with those on there. Swipe down with 3 fingers and copy all. Then tap on your top layer here, swipe down again and tap paste. Underneath this, I'm going to add a layer and fill it with white, and then if there's any gaps in the pattern, that white will show through. So tap on that and fill layer with white. So tap transform on this, and we're going to drag this up here, and you should see 1800 pixels by 2250. Duplicate this, tap transform and snap it into this corner here. Then you can zoom in, show and hide this just to make sure there's no white gap down there and that all your motifs along that edge are lining up. Then you can merge those 2 together, duplicate, tap transform, snap this down to the bottom here, and then again perform a check along this edge here just to make sure there's no white gap there and that all your motifs are lining up there. So pinch and you can merge those 2 together. And that is our repeating wallpaper, and you can see how by having different set of 3 motifs in the middle and on the edges there, we get that nice extra variation in the pattern, and it just looks a lot more intricate and less kind of repeated, for want of a better word. Let's put this 1 step smaller now. Tap this and you can see it in a smaller scale. If you want to get your hands on this set of 6 floral arts and crafts wallpaper canvases, then you can find them in my Etsy store, and Pattern Makers Toolkit members get 10% off. Pattern Makers Toolkit is a bit like a Patreon group, except it's all free. I send out 1 and only 1 email per month with a freebie in there to help you on your pattern making journey, as well as early access links to some of my YouTube tutorials and full access to all the assets in the resource library. Plus, members get 10% off all the canvases and brushes in my Etsy store. New for 2025, the email also has a set of seasonal prompts each month for helping you plan, illustrate and upload in advance for the key shopping dates in your print-on-demand stores like Spoonflower. If you'd like to join, just click on the link up here or in the description. If you want to see more from me, you can find all of my in-depth classes on Skillshare, and if you're not already a member there, you can get 1 month free when you sign up with this link. One of my most popular classes is this one, where I teach you how to export these finished patterns to Photoshop and build the pattern out for easy editing and recoloring using smart objects, plus an automation to build the pattern out with just 1 click. Lastly, don't forget to subscribe here on YouTube for your weekly dose of pattern making fun.